Today is 700 days on the nose until the midterm elections. Progress. Tomorrow will be in the 600s. It's a reminder that in campaigns, which are unique enterprises, that there are two finite commodities that matter above all other things: time and money, and neither can be squandered. This is the warning. We are approaching an urgent moment in the United States of America. This country will be in crisis at exactly 12 noon on January 20th, when power transfers subliminally, silently, and peacefully to Donald Trump, who is the first president in American history to say the quiet part out loud. He is coming for his opponents. He wants retribution and revenge. And there is no story that points this out more ludicrously and more absurdly than the New York Times in its masterpiece of campaign finance reporting, focusing on the fecklessness of billionaire Reid Hoffman and his retainer, the Lincoln Project's Dmitry Melhorn. Now, Dmitry Melhorn and Reid Hoffman are terrified. They're terrified of Donald Trump. Reid Hoffman, the Silicon Valley billionaire, is telling anyone who will listen, apparently, that he's going to flee the country. He's going to go into hiding somewhere, apparently. Who knows where? Here's the thing with Reid Hoffman. He funded the lawsuits against Donald Trump, where he was adjudicated as a rapist. He funded E. Jean Carroll's lawsuits because he said it was the right thing to do. He said he did it because he wanted to give a woman agency who was abused. The thing about Reid Hoffman is, with all the money, which for normal people is like picking up a penny on the ground, giving it to a child, and calling yourself a philanthropist. What he liked was the adulation that came from easy wins and easy victories and all the signal virtuing that's so common and endemic in Silicon Valley. The person who worked for him for a very long time is famous in Washington, D.C. He's famous amongst the Silicon Valley billionaires, all of the tech titans, all of the Hollywood moguls, as a real brain in the Democratic Party. Dmitry Melhorn, when Donald Trump nearly was assassinated, said it was a false flag operation. He picked up the phone, started calling every reporter who would listen, trying to get them to print the craziest conspiracy theory. And now these two antagonists of Donald Trump are terrified and running. 2 weeks ago, they bragged about their patriotism. They talked about it all the time. But the truth of the matter is what these people are is what Thomas Paine called sunshine patriots. Reid Hoffman, you best cowboy up, because things are going to get tough in this country. And rolling over and playing dead isn't going to save you from the abuses of Kash Patel. This is the fundamental lesson of appeasement. It is the idea advanced by Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski that they will be the first to feed the crocodile that they named Adolf Hitler, so that they may be the last eaten. Now, Joe Scarborough is an artful and articulate advocate for his position, no matter how contradictory it is. What Joe Scarborough did is appease the man he called Hitler by going to Mar-a-Lago for a sit-down, not an interview, a summit that he literally described as an opportunity to open new avenues of understanding, whatever that means. Let's listen to Joe Scarborough's plea in defense of the corporate media model that did so much to elect Donald Trump.
Let me just say, why this is so important right now, more than ever, is because critics of the press are feeling more empowered than ever, to lie more than ever. I've had friends for years going, I'm so overwhelmed, Joe, by the news. I don't read the news. I go, where do you get your news then? Epic Times. I go,
oh God.
You get your news from a website run by Chinese conspiracy theorists in a Chinese religious cult. That is where you get the no. Or if social media, people lying every day, every hour, every minute about the news. What you do matters. What the New York Times does matters. What the Wall Street Journal does matters. What Jonathan Lemire does matters. What the Financial Times does matters. What NBC News and MSNBC reporters do matters. It matters.
The truth of the matter is, covering a political campaign is exciting work in America. Not hard work. Hard work is working on a ranch, getting up in the morning with the animals, being out on an electric line in gale force winds in sub-zero weather, working in a coal mine, working on an oil rig, working as a nurse, working as a cop, working as a fireman. And yes, if you're a journalist making $45, $50, $60, $70,000 a year, out there in your community fighting to get the news into the hands of people locally who need it, it's a hard job. Joe Scarborough's job is not a hard job. Together, he and his wife make $30 million a year at least, and they're supposed to tell you the truth. But that was too much for them, as it was too much for Joe Biden to tell the country the truth about what he would do with his son, the convicted criminal. I'm pleased that Joe Biden could do for his son what so many American parents cannot do for theirs. He was able to save him from the consequences of his actions. He was convicted of tax felonies. He pled guilty to tax fraud, and he was found guilty of a gun crime. Hunter Biden's life has worth and purpose. And Joe Biden's political opponents cruelly, with malice, tried to destroy his son, to break his sobriety and to take his life so that they could destroy his father. It was among the sickest things I've seen in my 30-year political career, which includes a long spell at the highest level of national politics. This was the politics of personal destruction on super steroids. There has never been anything like it directed at the child of a president or a vice president, whether they be an adult or whether they be a minor. Joe Biden could have said, I will pardon my son. I must pardon my son. I cannot lose another child. And the country would have understood. The price would have been simple. The president of the United States abused his power to make that happen. And that's what the problem is. Because the president sends other people's kids into harm's way, and sometimes they don't come back. There's a lot of people who look at Joe Biden and they say, well, I would have done the same thing. Maybe. But then you shouldn't be the president of the United States, because the burden of putting the country first is a high one. Joe Biden did not run against Donald Trump on policy. He ran against him on character. He ran against him as the better man. And in the end, he didn't measure up. He couldn't do the job, but he asked for more time. And he sentenced the country to an astounding level of chaos to come. At the noon hour on January 20th, 2025, the greatest civil rights abuse in American history will commence. And we will have no more time to look backwards. We will have no more time to indulge the access media foolishness. No more time to discuss the evasions and the sins of omission and commission that flowed out of cable news stations nonstop for 4 long years as Trump gathered strength and came back into power. Now we're supposed to be upset when Donald appoints Ivanka's father-in-law, the convicted felon, to be the ambassador to France. The people that Donald Trump has selected to hold power are a rogues gallery of misfits, dangerous misfits. Kash Patel is out to destroy the FBI. And when it happens, and it will, if he makes it, and the next building is burning with thousands of Americans in it, everybody should know whose fault it is. It's Trump's, it's Patel's, and it's every single senator who would commit this act of vandalism and make this unfit nut the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and turn it into Trump's secret police. There are no words. Pete Hegseth's mother has weighed in on his abuse of women. Something's broken inside of Pete Hegseth, the accused rapist. He has a problem with women. He has an abuse problem. He has a respect problem. And because of that, he is morally unfit to lead the armed forces of the United States. It was nice to see Robert Kennedy showering naked behind his wife, MAGA Cheryl, hawking some supplements or products, or who knows what, abusing the office. Great people all. In this next moment, Americans best get ready, because there will be an avalanche of crazy dumped into our culture. The military will deploy into the country. A mass deportation with police state tactics will begin. A tariff regime will commence that will set off an inflationary cycle. Political opponents will be persecuted and will be prosecuted. Media organizations will be threatened with the stripping of their licenses. Everywhere there will be threats. And everywhere there will be capitulators and capitulant acts. The scramble to get on side with Trump will be unlike anything that anyone has ever seen. Fear of Trump will drive behavior, just like we saw with the Canadian Prime Minister, who hustled down to Mar-a-Lago like a child called to the principal's office. Unbecoming doesn't begin to describe it. And yet, it's just but a brief glimpse into our Trumpian future of intimidation, mob boss governance, where everybody is expected to kiss the ring and pay the vig. I have a better idea. You. Here's the deal. The United States of America is a country where dissent is fundamental, and the right to oppose and speak out on matters of conscience is God-given. There should be no kowtow to Donald Trump, but what there should be is a cutting of the cord to the hypocrisy and to the Biden era that brought him back to power. And so it's great that Joe Scarborough has a long list of newspapers that he thinks are the answer. But the truth of the matter is, the most celebrated reporters at those newspapers, they're part of the reason Trump is back in power. Journalism is the pursuit of truth with no fear or favor and no fear of power. The confrontation between the little guy and the powerful is the story that journalists should care about. But the journalism of this era is not about that for people like Joe Scarborough and Mika. It's about a license to be close to power as an entitlement, because that's great. Don't you dare say that the people who call you out on it are liars or conspiracy theorists or some lonely denizens of the internet isolated from the greater, broader reality where Joe and Mika are fighting to reveal the truth for all of us as fearless, risk-taking journalists fighting for democracy. There's going to be some hard days in America, and the people who will feel it first are not billionaires, are not morning cable news hosts making tens of millions a year. It's the immigrant, it's the child, it's the poor mother. It's people who aren't even seen at all, the forgotten people, the ones that Trump has never seen but voted for him anyway. This will all go off the rails. And when it does, there must be an opposition prepared with an offer of something better. And when that moment comes, the last thing that anybody can talk about is Joe Biden. The good news is, when Donald Trump's avalanche begins, you'll still have your power. There will be another presidential election, and J.D. Vance will be the Republican nominee. I don't want to see the United States go further down the drain 4 years from now because the Democratic Party isn't ready. This is the warning. I'm Steve Schmidt, This is the warning, and I invite you to subscribe on our Substack, on our YouTube channel. Follow us. Welcome to the community.